welcome back to my channel. So as you can see, I'm in a different setting. We moved into our new house this past weekend, and you guys, it has been a roller coaster, but it has been so fun to like decorate and figure out where things are gonna go, and we just have so much space, and I have this like really cool window with this lighting now, and this is actually going to be my office. Right now it's completely empty because we have no decorations, and we're still trying to figure all that stuff out because y'all don't realize how expensive it is to buy a house and buy decorations until you actually do it. So that is a work in progress, and once I get our house together, I'm going to do a house tour for you guys. It's not anything like extremely, special or big or anything like that, but it's ours and we're really proud of it, and it's our home. Like, I want to share it with you guys. So today's topic is going to be on the same topic that the last video was, of marriage. We're going to continue on that topic because I got so much good feedback from that, kind of sharing our story. But today's video, we're going to talk about why we got married so young, how we stayed abstinent until we got married, and then how we continue to put God first in our marriage every single day. So on the first topic of why we got married so young, we had so many people when we first started telling our family and our friends that we were engaged. They were like, why are you doing this? You're 19 years old, he's 20 years old, you still have the rest of your life to live before you, hunker down with somebody and build a life. And we just never expected to get married young. I was not 12 years old and was like, Mom, I'm getting married young. That was not my life. But God led us to get married young because he knew he had a plan for us. But like I said, we got bashes, we got people asking and questioning us all the time, and it was kind of hard to hear at some points because some of the people that were close to us that were like, what are you doing? But at the same time, we knew so passionately that this is what we're supposed to do because we had our family's 1000% backing. Like, Craig's both parents and grandparents on all sides were all married at 19 and 20. My parents and all of my grandparents were all married at 19 and 20. So it was kind of like, it wasn't weird, it wasn't unexpected, it wasn't cliche, or not cliche, it wasn't taboo for us to want to get married young. It was strange because we were like, we don't know what we're doing. We're still in college. We were sophomores in college. We had no idea what life had, held before us. We just knew that we didn't have to wait to get married just because society has made it a trend to get married when you're a little older. I've always been like an old soul at heart, and I just want to do things by the book and do things like a different way than everybody else does it, because my favorite verse is Romans 12:2, do not conform to the patterns of this world, and I have held strong to that verse every single day of my life. And yeah, I faltered at some points, but this was one thing, like our marriage, that I was like, no, we're gonna do this right, and if it feels right that we're supposed to get married, even though it really doesn't make sense to some people, we're gonna do it anyway. We also decided that we wanted to get married when we did because at the time we lived an hour and a half away from each other. I got to see him for 6 hours a week, and it was not enough for us. So the burning question is, how and why did we stay abstinent until we got married? So I just want to disclaim this by saying, if you are not somebody who stayed abstinent until you got married, you are not a horrible person. You are not, I don't think badly of you at all or anything like that. This is just my personal preference because even since I was little, I had just always had it in the back of my mind that I am going to save this really awesome gift, this really awesome thing that God is gifting us with for that purpose to be used in marriage. And I was in a relationship where I was pressured to have sex multiple times. I was in many relationships where that was the pressure, but I never ever gave into it because I just so strongly believe that if I just stick it out, if I just wait, then it's going to be worth it so much more than if I were to just do it with this one person who I'm not married to and I don't know if I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. And it turns out that I didn't. Those people were cheating on me, they hurt me, and it just was not worth it for me to give that piece of me to them and then be attached to them for the rest of my life. It just was not worth it to me. And it was the same thing for Craig too. I didn't actually know that he had stayed abstinent until our third date. We got really deep into some of our things in our past, and I was just telling him about how my life has not been amazing, and we just both came to the conclusion that we believe in the same thing, because I made it known to him, and I made it known to every boyfriend before him, that it is not something that I'm going to do. I'm saving that for the right person, and on our wedding day, heck yes, but it just wasn't it wasn't something that I was going to partake in. And it was really, really cool, because he was the first person that was like, I believe in the same exact thing. And it's really nice to hear that, because you can't find a lot of people nowadays who believe that also. So it was like, in that moment, we knew that that was a connection that we didn't want to lose. I was actually not only bullied in relationships about having sex before I was married, but also like in high school. I had guys, friends come up to me, and they were always like, Lexi the virgin, and like used to just like poke fun of me and kind of try to like peer pressure me and single me out as this weird person who doesn't do this thing. And to me, it was like, it never really got to me, because I mean, by the grace of God, he gave me this thing in my brain that just would not allow me to do it. And I still thank God every single day that that was my mindset, because it turned out to be exactly, you know, what I had hoped it would be. But I never let those bullies who were saying all these things and peer pressuring me and trying to make me feel bad, I never let it get to me, because I was like, I have a greater purpose than giving my body over to this boy who doesn't treat me the way I'm supposed to be treated. I just couldn't see that for myself. And I knew that out of all of the things that I had done to myself, like my eating disorder and being in those relationships, out of all those things, I knew that I wanted to keep this one thing sacred, and I knew that I wanted to keep it for the person who was truly going to see my worth. Something that I've gotten asked before also is, you know, did your parents ever like really put it in your, like stick it in your head that you are not supposed to have sex until you're married? And I can completely honestly say that I don't know if my parents ever sat down with me and were like, hey, you know, like the birds and the bees talk. I really don't ever remember that. Me and my brother were just always so that was not on our brain wave. It just wasn't, it was around me all the time. All of my friends were having sex, all of my, you know, all the guys around me were doing it, and it was just something I was like, that's not me. Like, there's something bigger than this. And so my parents, though they never sat down and had the birds and the bees talk with me, it was just kind of burned in my brain from pretty much just God himself that, like, don't do this. Save yourself, you know? It says clearly in my word that this is a sacred gift that you're supposed to use for the marriage bed, and I want to do that. I really wish Craig was here with me right now to kind of give his testimony on it. I felt the same way. I remember when we had this conversation, it brought me to tears, just listening to him talk to me about how passionate he was about saving this thing, because he's a guy. You know, how many guys do you know of nowadays who, you know, have many opportunities to have sex and they don't, because they want to save it for marriage? Like, you cannot find that anymore, and it's very, very unfortunate. But for me, hearing him talk about how passionate he was about just like not defiling a woman's body and just making sure that they know that they're precious and they're worthy and they are beautiful, and making sure that they know that activity, I guess you're going to say, is meant for two people who are bound under a covenant of God. And that was like it for me. I was like, Lord, let me marry this man. I think that it should not be taboo anymore. I think it should be something that people openly talk about. And, you know, sex is so idolized now. Sex is used for everything. It's used for marketing. It's used on the freaking TV. You know, you can't watch a Netflix series anymore without seeing people have sex. And it's just like, that is why people can't wait anymore. That is why it's why men have this super strong urge at a young age to have sex, because it's around them all the time, and it's portrayed as this thing that's okay to do whenever you want to do it. And I just don't think it's okay. Why does that have to be something that we watch on TV? Why does that have to be something that is like this publicized thing? Because it shouldn't be. It should be something that's saved for the marriage bed, and it should be something that, is openly talked about, but not something that's openly talked about as like, a guy saying like, I got that girl in my bed last night. Like, that's not moral. That's not what God intended sex to be. And so I know like I'm kind of going off on a rant now, but I'm just so passionate about bringing old ways to new truths. It has intended for you to glorify him with. And I really mean that. Like, God wants you to glorify him through the act of having sex, because he's gifting you that so that you and your marriage can have joy and you can have this connection that nobody else can have. So I just want that for people. I want people to feel the way that Craig and I feel about each other, and I truly believe that we feel the way about each other because we decided to wait. Now, there are some things like I remember when we were engaged, I had somebody tell me, well, you have to have sex before you're married because, what if it's not great, or what if you guys don't like feel a connection or something? And I'm like, that's not how it works. Like, you don't just test out the waters and make sure that this person satisfies you or whatever the thing is. You just don't do that. You wait and you trust that God is going to bless that part of your marriage, and then he does. Sex is one of the greatest things that God gives us in a marriage, and that's why he gives us one person to be with, because you get that one person to share this really special thing with. If you guys have any more questions about that, or like want me to go into more detail on like really what I believe in and how I would like, if you're somebody wanting to be abstinent before marriage, maybe what I would say to you, or how I would help you get your mind in a place that is connected with God so that you can wait, because it takes willpower, obviously. So if that's something that you guys want me to talk about, leave it in the comments below, because I'd love to talk about it. It's not something that I'm ashamed of. It's not something that I'm like, oh, I can't talk about sex before marriage, can't talk about sex. Like, no, that's not what I want to talk about it because it needs to be talked about. So the last thing that I want to talk about is how we continue to put God first in our daily lives. And I'm going to be completely honest and say that it's a struggle every single day, because we're young, we're married, we have all of these new exciting things happening. Like, we just bought a house. We've had struggles in our marriage, and it's hard, but when we set our vows to each other, we both ironically vowed that we would love God more than we loved each other. And I still try to keep that vow every single day, because that's the most important thing that you can do in your marriage, is love God more than you love your spouse. It's really important for us to not only have a relationship together with Christ, but to have a separate relationship with Christ, that we can grow in our separate relationships and then come together and then build each other up from there. So he does his own thing in the morning, I do my own thing in the morning, and then we go to church on Sunday. We make it a point to have God as a topic of conversation regularly. I ask him on a daily basis, how can I pray for you? What is God teaching you today? And just making it a topic of conversation that's easy, and that, is like, hey, I really just felt like God is telling me this today, and I want to share it with you. Kind of just like you're talking to your best friend. If you are a wife, or if you are going to become a wife, the biggest thing that you can do for your husband is 1, respect him, and 2, pray for him. The power of a praying wife is so huge. You guys, if you pray for your husband on a daily basis, and not like a prayer to change him, but just a prayer to uplift him, encourage him, respect him, for his anxiety, his troubles, if you are constantly praying for your husband, your relationship is going to be so good, with or without him knowing that you're praying for him. So that is all that I have for today's video. I hope that it helped you. I hope you guys love our story, because man, I love telling it. The next video is going to be about what you need to know before you get married, specifically as a young person. So like I said, I am not an expert on this by any means. We've only been married 2 years, but I do believe that God set us up for success in our marriage before we were even married. And I believe that he's taught us really valuable things in these 2 years that it's my duty to share with you guys. So I hope that you join me, and I love you so much. If you're not already subscribed, hit that little bell and that subscribe button, because if you want to make sure that you hear this next episode, then that's how you'll see it. Hit the like button if you love this video, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Bye guys!